Hello! Hi. Okay, so this is our video for the Padlet for week 15 to talk about the process of the collaborative action research. So the first question was, what is your most valuable takeaway for your collaborative endeavor during this course? So for me, I learned about the benefits of working with somebody collaboratively, with someone who has different strengths than I do. So like for example, in this project, I had done more research about concept maps, so I was able to show them to Amanda and help her, have her use them with her students to solve some of their reading, or to help her students read better, because that was an area that we had identified that they needed some help with. But like for example, Amanda's really good at finding texts that are like at our students' level and that are maybe a little bit more pop culture or like popular. I guess that's what pop culture is. Popular culture relations that are related to pop culture, right? That like I'm not as good at, so she could help me with that. Amanda, what was your most valuable takeaway?
I guess working with someone collaboratively really showed me the benefit of using pre-reading activities, and that they're worth the time, so that even if the reading only takes 5 to 10 minutes, that it's okay to have a pre-reading activity that takes about the same amount of time, just because it will help prepare the students, make them feel more comfortable and more confident with what they're reading. And I also learned that it's okay to tailor a text. A lot of times we want to incorporate realia from the culture, the target culture, and some of those texts are often above the level of our students. So without actually editing the text, you can cut out parts of it, only giving the essential paragraphs or whatnot, or using visual aids like the pictures that were given in the article to help the students while they're reading to comprehend it better. So now I feel more comfortable knowing that I can choose a text and tailor it to the needs and the expectations that I have for my students.
To clarify, that's what I did for the second reading that we did. We made it a little bit shorter. Mm-hmm. All right, so the second question was, what has been unexpected? Well, for me, I was not expecting to have to change partners and topics, but it turned out to be for the best, because this was way easier than what I was trying to do before. In terms of our findings, I didn't expect students' knowledge to not transfer really well, because they filled out their concept maps really well, but they didn't necessarily transfer for all of them onto the Google form quiz, which I wasn't really expecting. I also wasn't expecting so few students to show up for the baseline assessment, which led to having a much smaller number of participants than we had expected. I also was surprised by how some of Amanda's students did on the Google Forms quizzes for the baseline and after the intervention, because based off of their test scores and general participation in class, we had predicted that some of them would not have scored as highly as they did, and some of them who we are used to scoring highly on tests did not do as well in the reading. So that was interesting and unexpected.
Yeah. I think what was most unexpected for me is the fact that in terms of like the concept map, it worked for some students and for others it didn't, in terms of their scores or just their opinion, what they gave as far as feedback about how it worked for them. And I think it's really interesting to think about how that may correlate with their learning style, whether they're visual or they're auditory or kinesthetic. Maybe the more visual ones benefited more from the concept map than maybe some of the other students. And so I think that's something definitely that should be considered. But I also think maybe like motivation could play into it, you know, if they're into reading, if they like reading, and they actually put effort into filling out the concept map, versus students that didn't. That's also something to be considered. But yeah, overall, just being surprised by how it was kind of split, the opinion on whether it was beneficial or not. That was surprising to me.
Yeah. All right, so the last question is, what is next for you? As far as you know, you are also teaching next year.
Yeah.
So I'm planning to teach 5th grade next year, and I will definitely need to continue research on reading strategies or in other aspects of literacy. I would like to look into how drawing or creating visual representations of a text helps either comprehension or recall, retelling the student's ability to retell a story. And I plan to continue conducting action research because I think it's a good way to be a reflective practitioner and not keep doing things that don't work. And then I also plan to continue working in collaboration with other teachers because I've seen that it's really beneficial.
Yeah. I would say, in correlation to what I just said earlier, I'd like to do some more research on students' learning styles before giving them pre-reading tasks that are supposed to scaffold things for them, just because I think it would be helpful to know what they already think works for them and what doesn't, and kind of tailor that to their needs for the majority of the class. And I think it's also a good opportunity to challenge them with different types of activities. Even for a visual learner, they should also have auditory input or kinesthetic input, to kind of expand their knowledge and how they work with new challenges in that way. And then the second thing also I wanted to say was, I really want to not only give them tasks in which they have to do a pre-reading activity per se, but also teach them that is a strategy they can use for other texts, not even just in their L2, but in their L1, and that it can be applied to other places, other times, other concepts, other stories, no matter what the literature or the text may be, for them to really know how it can be applied and adapted in other situations, rather than just being like a busy task. They actually learn the method and strategy from it. So,
All right. Thank you.
bye.